The big story today, Rod Rosenstein, bless his heart, suggesting that Trump be recorded surreptitiously, and then the recording played for other members or for members of the cabinet and leaders of the House and the Senate, and get that son of a bitch out of office. This was a year ago. Almost. Well, no, over a year. This was the spring of 2017. Rosenstein suggested that he secretly record Trump to expose the chaos that was the very beginnings of the destruction of this democratic republic. Now, nobody ever guaranteed that this republic was going to last. As you know, one of the framers, was it Franklin? Somebody said, okay, we've given you a democratic form of government, whatever they said. Let's see if you can keep it. Well, we're not going to keep it. I think that is very apparent at this point. But Rosenstein, according to the reports that are out there now in the Times, I think the Times broke the story today, but the Times, Washington Post, MSNBC, or NBC, I should say, CBS, ABC, they're all reporting this. And a story like this does not, it may be broken by one valid news agency, but if it is not checked and rechecked and triple checked by the other agencies, the story just dies. The story is not died, which means, as far as I'm concerned, it's true. So Rosenstein made these suggestions in the spring of 2017 when Trump fired James Comey, the F.B.I. director. And everybody knew and everybody knows, and if you don't know, you're a fucking idiot or a Trump supporter. Oops, I repeat myself. He was fired, Comey was fired, because Trump did not want his connections with the Russians exposed. And I don't mean his connections from money received for the campaign or the connections of Russian hackers destroying the voting system so that it would go to the final count would go to Trump in these key battleground states. No. I'm talking about Trump's relationship with the Russian gangsters and the so-called Russian mafia going back over 30 or 40 years. That's what Trump, that has been the focus on this miserable son of a bitch. Not running the country, not governing, not coming up with ideas, not coming up with innovations, not being willing to sit down in international conferences and discuss some of the issues facing everybody on the planet. No. The only thing that Trump has focused on, it has consumed his ass, well, not quite, but I hope it does, is the Russia affair. So after Comey was fired because he wouldn't back off of the Russia affair, where was I? Oh, yeah, Trump divulged classified intelligence to the Russians in the Oval Office. You remember that meeting. And revelations emerged that Trump had asked Comey to pledge loyalty and to end an investigation into, who was it? Investigation into Flynn? Was it Flynn? There were so many of these fuckers that are just guilty as dirt. But anyway, Rosenstein at the time was just 2 weeks into his job. And he had begun overseeing the investigation into the extent and the degree to which the Russians had interfered in our election. There's no question that they did. And every intelligence agency in the country, and we can say what we want to about them, and God knows I've said negative things, but this was something that they got right. They sure did. So, and Rosenstein, I'm trying to keep this straight, Rosenstein played a key role in Trump's dismissal of Comey by writing a memo critical of Comey's handling of the Hillary Clinton email investigation. Not that Comey didn't go far enough, but that Comey went too far. This is the irony. However, Rosenstein was caught off guard when Trump cited the memo as a reason to fire Comey. And Rosenstein began telling people in the government that he knew that he was being used by this creepy fucker Donald Trump. He knew it. So, according to the New York Times, Rosenstein then made the remarks about secretly recording Trump and about the possible application of the 25th Amendment against this son of a bitch to remove him from office. He started talking about this stuff in meetings and conversations with other Justice Department and F.B.I. officials. And several people described these episodes, how these conversations went, of course, insisting on anonymity to discuss internal deliberations. Now, according to what the Times, the two writers, Adam Goldman and Michael Schmidt, what they were able to find out was that the people were briefed, the people they interviewed were briefed either on the events themselves about discussions to remove this fucker from office, or on memos written by FBI officials, including the then acting bureau director, Andrew McCabe. And all of these memos and all of these notes documented what Rosenstein was doing. You know, they were contemporaneous statements written down. This is what is happening now, which can be used as proof if it's needed. Now, apparently, nothing that Rosenstein proposed came to fruition about secretly recording this asshole or using that recording to try to apply the 25th Amendment and get him removed. Remember what was it Machiavelli said? If you're going to strike at the prince, was it the prince or the king? If you're going to strike at the prince, you better make sure you kill him. Because if you strike at the prince or the king, I'm sorry, I never read Machiavelli, I'm just remembering what quotes I've read. If you're going to strike and you don't kill the person, then your ass is doomed. So apparently Rosenstein thought about striking and didn't, metaphorically speaking. In fact, it's not clear how determined Rosenstein was about seeing this stuff through. Although he did tell Andrew McCabe that he, Rosenstein, might be able to persuade Jeff Sessions and John Kelly, who was then the Secretary of Homeland Security, to help him, Rosenstein, mount the effort to invoke the 25th Amendment. Now, these suggestions, according to the Times, they show Rosenstein's state of mind in the disorienting days that followed Comey's dismissal. The Times reports this: sitting in on Mr. Trump's interviews with prospective FBI directors and facing attacks for his own role in Comey's firing, Rosenstein had an up-close view of the tumult. Rosenstein appeared conflicted, regretful, and emotional, according to people who spoke with him at the time. Now, if you remember those interviews, remember how they reported from anonymous sources that all Trump was interested in when he interviewed people to head the FBI was whether or not they would be loyal to him, which is just fucking not the way this government works. But Trump is such an idiotic moron. He knows nothing. He's been running the government with his sycophants and all these sons of bitches crowded around him like a mafia boss, which is what he thinks he is. Now, Rosenstein, for his part, as soon as this article came out on the New York Times website today, Rosenstein started backpedaling. Now, I want you to listen very closely to what he says. Here's the quote in a statement. Quote, "The New York Times story is inaccurate and factually incorrect. I will not further comment on a story based on anonymous sources who are obviously biased against the department and are advancing their own personal agenda. But let me be clear about this. Based on my personal dealings with the president, there's no basis to invoke the 25th Amendment." Now, do you hear a denial in there? Do you hear Rosenstein saying something to the effect, this is total bullshit, I never said this, none of this happened? No. What you're hearing is the New York Times story is inaccurate and factually incorrect. There's no denial there. He's saying that the Times, if you parse his words, to me what he's saying is, all right, the Times got the story right. But I'll be goddamned if I'm going to be the next target for this crazy fucking Trump. So I'll just tell you, you made some mistakes in your story, boys. It's inaccurate. And some of your facts are wrong. But he doesn't deny it. Now, this is important because this is the way the game is played in Washington. Anytime you hear a non-denial denial, you know the person issuing that non-denial denial is guilty as fucking sin right up to his eyeballs and beyond. Now, by guilty in this case, I mean regarding Rosenstein's denial. Of course he said this. If he didn't say it, then he was not adhering to his oath of office. Woo! A Justice Department spokeswoman also provided a statement from a person who was present when Mr. Rosenstein proposed wearing a wire. The person, who would not be named, acknowledged the remark. In other words, yeah, Rosenstein said it, but he said it sarcastically. Oh, sarcastically. However, according to other people who described his comments, Rosenstein not only confirmed that he was serious about the idea, but also followed up by suggesting that other FBI officials who were interviewing to be the Bureau's director could also secretly record Trump while they were being interviewed. Of course. Now, the first reaction to this that I heard today was, wait. This is a false story being planted to give Trump the perfect excuse to fire Rosenstein. And not a word of it's true. This will give Trump cover to fire Rosenstein, the one who hired Mueller. And once Rosenstein is gone, ta-da! Trump really believes that that would mean that Mueller would be gone. And even if Mueller were fired, which he will never be unless you want to see this fucking government collapse, even if Mueller were to be fired, the investigation will continue. You know, it's time to face some hard truths here. There are enough people in the guts of the government. You can call them deep state, you can call it cherry pie. It really doesn't matter. There are enough people in the depths of this government who understand what has happened, that there has been an executive office coup, and that the religious right, the religious fascist nutasses, and the political fascists are behind it together. They got Trump in working with their compadres in the Russian fascist mafia, headed by Putin. Now, that's not Alex Jones shit. That's just what happened. What is happening now? It is so goddamn obvious. The Russians own Trump. They just haven't called in their chits yet. They have so many IOUs on Trump, they could paper Putin's living room with them.